A blinding flash erupts, brighter than 1,000 suns. In an instant, your world is transformed. The city you once knew vanishes in a hellish inferno. Buildings crumble like sand castles. Cars melt into puddles of molten metal. This is the terrifying reality of a nuclear strike, but you're still alive for now. The next few minutes will determine if you survive or become another statistic in the deadliest attack in human history. As the mushroom cloud rises ominously on the horizon, a deafening roar fills the air. The shock wave is coming. Windows shatter, trees snap like twigs. The very air ignites, incinerating everything in its path. Those closest to ground zero are vaporized instantly. Others suffer horrific burns, their skin peeling away in sheets, but the true horror is just beginning. 15 minutes after detonation, a sinister rain begins to fall. This isn't ordinary precipitation, it's radioactive fallout. Microscopic particles of death drift down from the sky, contaminating everything they touch. Your survival window is rapidly closing. You have mere moments to find shelter. Any building still standing will do, but the more walls between you and the outside, the better. Basements and underground structures offer the best protection. Seal all windows and doors. Strip off your contaminated clothes and wash your body thoroughly. Every second counts. As you huddle in the darkness, praying for rescue, invisible killers surround you. Radiation comes in 3 deadly flavors: alpha, beta, and gamma. Alpha particles are the least penetrating but most dangerous if ingested. Beta radiation can penetrate skin, causing severe burns, but it's the gamma rays you should fear most. They pass through walls and human tissue alike, wreaking havoc on your cellular structure. The first 48 hours are critical. Radiation sickness sets in quickly for those exposed. Nausea, vomiting, and fever are just the beginning. Your hair falls out in clumps. Internal bleeding begins as your body's ability to produce blood cells fails. Without immediate medical attention, death is almost certain. But you can increase your odds of survival. Stay put. Venturing outside exposes you to lethal doses of radiation. Drink only bottled water or other sealed liquids. Avoid fresh fruits and vegetables. They're likely contaminated. Canned and packaged foods are your safest bet. Ration carefully. You may be trapped for days or even weeks. As you fight to stay alive, you might wonder, was this an atomic bomb like those dropped on Japan? Or something even worse? Modern thermonuclear weapons, also known as hydrogen bombs, are hundreds of times more powerful than their World War II predecessors. A single H-bomb can obliterate an entire metropolitan area with fallout spreading for hundreds of miles. The grim reality is that even if you survive the initial blast and radiation, the world you knew is gone forever. Cities reduced to ash, millions dead or dying. Infrastructure destroyed, the very fabric of society unraveling. But humanity has faced nuclear devastation before and lived to tell the tale. On August 6, 1945, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on a business trip when the first atomic bomb exploded. Despite being less than 2 miles from ground zero, he survived. Badly burned, he returned to his hometown, Nagasaki. 3 days later, he lived through a second nuclear attack. Against all odds, Yamaguchi survived both blasts and lived to the age of 93. Sumateru Taniguchi wasn't as fortunate. Just 16 when the bomb fell on Nagasaki, he suffered horrific burns across his entire back. For years, he was forced to lie on his stomach as his wounds slowly healed. Taniguchi dedicated his life to advocating for nuclear disarmament, showing his scars to the world as a living testament to the horrors of atomic warfare. These survivors' stories offer a glimmer of hope. But the long-term consequences of a modern nuclear exchange would be far more catastrophic. Beyond the immediate destruction, we face the specter of nuclear winter. Massive firestorms would inject millions of tons of soot into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun. Global temperatures would plummet. Crops would fail worldwide. Famine would claim billions of lives. The Earth would eventually recover, but it might take decades or even centuries. Life would return, but it would be forever changed. Mutations caused by lingering radiation could create new species. Others might vanish entirely. Humans, if any survive, would face a harsh new world unlike anything in our history. As the dust settles and the fires die, the true magnitude of the disaster becomes clear. Entire cities erased from existence. Millions dead, with millions more facing a slow, agonizing death from radiation poisoning. The lucky survivors emerge from their shelters to find a world forever altered. The air itself seems different, thick with ash and the acrid smell of destruction. Emergency services are overwhelmed. Hospitals, if they still stand, are flooded with the dying and injured. Burns, trauma, and radiation sickness push medical personnel to their breaking point. Many first responders themselves fall victim to radiation exposure as they struggle to save others. In the days and weeks that follow, society teeters on the brink of collapse. Food and water shortages lead to widespread panic. Looting and violence erupt as desperate survivors fight for dwindling resources. The government, if it still functions, struggles to maintain order and coordinate relief efforts. But even as chaos reigns, acts of heroism and humanity shine through the darkness. Neighbors help neighbors. Strangers risk their lives to save others. Communities band together, pooling resources and skills to survive. It's a stark reminder that even in our darkest hour, the human spirit endures. As weeks turn to months, the full scope of the disaster becomes apparent. The environmental impact is staggering. Radioactive contamination renders vast swaths of land uninhabitable for generations. Wildlife suffers mutations and die-offs. The food chain is disrupted, leading to ecological collapse in affected areas. The global economy grinds to a halt. Trade networks are shattered. Financial markets crash. The world plunges into a depression that makes the 1930s look like a minor setback. Recovery, if it comes at all, will take decades. Yet life, resilient as ever, finds a way. In time, plants begin to reclaim the ruins. Animals adapt to the new reality. Humans, those who remain, rebuild. But the scars of that fateful day, both physical and psychological, never fully heal. The world learns a harsh lesson. There are no winners in nuclear war. The consequences are too devastating, too far-reaching. Perhaps, in the aftermath of such unthinkable destruction, humanity will finally lay down its most terrible weapons and embrace a future of peace. But for now, as you emerge from your shelter into a world forever changed, one question burns in your mind. How do we ensure this never happens again?